Episode 15.
Yeah.
We're back. And we're talking about injuries.
Yes.
And working out with injuries.
Yes.
If or not, or...
If they come up.
Yes.
Preventing, and then what to do if it happens.
Yeah, and do we train, continue, or do we not, and whatnot. Yeah, and we want to give a little, like a 360 approach. How do we prevent it? What happens if an injury does come up?
Yes.
And how can I actually, with an existing injury, how can maybe CrossFit sports help me with that injury?
Yes.
Yeah, so like a little 360.
Perfect.
A little disclaimer in the beginning.
Yes.
There's two types of injuries.
Yes. We're discussing today sort of self-inflicted injuries, meaning like, you tweaked your back or you hurt your shoulder lifting something, or just getting out of bed in the morning and you tweaked your back because that happens, or like, you have knee bothersome issues. We are not talking about, if you've been in a car accident and doctor diagnosed like broken bone injuries, like that kind of thing. Although we do have workarounds for that, but we're not diagnosing or prescribing for those kind of things.
Yeah.
So always, refer to your health professional.
Cool. Okay, let's jump right into it with injury prevention.
Yes.
Injury prevention is that locking myself in a padded room
With bubble wrap and
with bubble wrap, or do I stay on the couch all day, or what's in our world? What does injury prevention look like?
So movement in general, I'm going to go real broad. Moving is injury prevention. The worst thing you can do for your body is to stay still and do nothing. This causes injuries for multiple reasons.
Chronic injuries.
Yes. And diseases. So anyway, CrossFit specifically, one, it gets us moving at a very basic level. And two, it gets us moving through full range of motion. It puts a focus on, or it should put a focus on form and technique. So moving well, not just moving without a purpose, and keeping those joints loose, all
mobility.
of that. Yeah, mobility, flexibility, strength, which also prevents injuries, having muscles.
Yep.
I think we talked about that.
Up to a certain point.
Well, yes. I think we talked about that before. Yes.
Yep.
So that's kind of a broad overview of why it's important to move and what we do specifically. Yeah.
What about other, maybe not sport-specific things to prevent injury, or in the nutrition?
So avoiding things that cause inflammation in your body, like sugar and trans fats. If you have joint issues, you can add omega fats, omega-3 to supplement. This helps. I take those for my old knees.
Old knees.
My old lady knees.
Oh boy.
No, it just helps keep the joints lubricated. But staying away from trans fats and sugar. Sugar causes massive inflammation in the body, which I'm sure if you've ever been on a sugar binge, you've felt like stiff and just like puffy. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. That also prevents injury.
Yes.
Generally.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. That's what we do. That's what everybody can do to prevent injury. Get moving. Full range of motion. Mobility is important. We do that on a daily basis in our classes. What if an injury does happen? And everybody should be aware, moving around does increase the risk of injury.
Yeah, I mean, getting out of bed, you can hurt yourself. Yeah. So it's not that CrossFit has a high risk of injury. It's a sport, just like any other sport. So there are injuries that occur just because of the nature of what we're doing, moving in general. I do want to specify before we get into that, when we say injury, we're not talking about like, you're not gonna go to a CrossFit gym and like fracture your elbow or something. It's possible, but that's not the kind of thing we're talking about. There's irritation and pain and injury. I sort of like categorize that. And irritation is, I would put on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad does it hurt? It's like a 4 or less. And irritation is necessary for adaptation, right? We need it to, that's like when a workout's hard, we feel our body's irritated, it's a struggle. That's where we get better, faster, stronger, etc.
Like that, yeah.
So we're not talking about those little like irritations, right? We're talking about injury, which is when you get to the point where you say, I can't. I can't do this anymore.
Hurts.
It hurts too much. I can't. That's what we're talking about. So if this happens, you have that point where you hit the injury. There's a couple things. Right away, immediately, stop what hurt you. Don't do more of that. And then,
do I like get a shot and keep going the next day, or?
I wouldn't recommend it. I also would caution against taking an entire day off because, again, moving is helpful for injuries. So like if you hurt your, let's say, lower back doing deadlifts, you don't want to go and do deadlifts the next day or an hour later, right?
You also don't want to go on the couch and lie down for the rest of the day.
You don't want to sit down. You maybe like go for a walk, stay moving, like those kinds of things. Keeping the joints warm. So if you have, I know a lot of people say, oh, let's put ice on this.
Oh, perfect segue, yeah.
Yes, let's put ice or...
Do I apply heat or cold?
Yes. So ice actually... I think I learned this from the seminar at CFNE with Ben Bergeron. Ice doesn't do anything for you and can also be harmful.
It slows the process down.
Yes, because it slows your pain receptors down, and so your body's not going to send the blood and everything that heals you on the inside because it can't feel it anymore. So you're not doing much. Now, if you did something where it immediately swelled up.
I don't know.
Gosh. English is hard. Where it got big and puffy. Then you would want to put ice on it to prevent the swelling. That has a purpose. Like a sprained ankle or something, they get really big really fast, and to put ice on it will stop the swelling. You know something's wrong at that point. If there's no swelling, then ice does nothing for you. And then
it actually harms the recovery process.
Yes. And then heat expands things, right? Ice shrinks things, heat expands things. So if you're super tight, your back feels really tight, you pulled a little something weird, heat can sometimes make it feel better, but also we're not doctors, so it's really hard to diagnose that.
Generally speaking, applying heat helps the body with the recovery processes. I don't know what the Fahrenheit is, but our core temperature is warm.
98.2 degrees or something like
36, 37 degrees Celsius. So we want a warm environment because that's where all the processes
work. The only reason I caution both ice and heat is because, again, we're not a doctor, and what we're feeling may not be actually what happened to us. And saying like popping a disc out or versus a tight muscle. Two different scenarios. May if you've never done either one of them, you don't know what one feels like.
Hopefully you haven't popped a disc yet.
Yes. Knock on wood. So heat expands things, and if things are already swelling, you wouldn't want to add heat to that because it would increase the swelling. So you need to be careful with both. They both have their place, but also just pay attention to it.
Okay, that was the immediate. What about the next day? CrossFit.
So
the next class, the next workout.
Stay moving. Like we said, maybe directly after go for a walk, and then the next day we want to maybe avoid the movements that bothered it in the first place. So again, deadlifts is an easy example for the back.
Let's go shoulder.
Shoulders, pull-ups, snatches.
I have an injury in my left shoulder.
Yes.
And there's push presses.
Okay. So we can do single arm work so that we're still working our other side. And one thing that people underestimate that I've found from personal experience with multiple injuries over the last few years, in CrossFit, what we do is great. The high intensity, the fast workouts, it gets our cardiovascular system working. But the opposite side of that we don't always work as much as we should, is the slow tempo movements, which help the tendons and the tiny little muscles and fibers in our joints.
Yeah.
And if you have a shoulder injury, slowing down the movement, like lowering the weight, get a 5-pound dumbbell, a 2-pound dumbbell, something, and I guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say that. I would bet money that if you take a dumbbell for your shoulder injury or one that's bothering you, you can get it overhead, like less than a 4 out of 10 pain range, and go down like 3 to 4 seconds on the way down, and then a normal speed up, your shoulder pain will get better with time.
It depends on the injury, but yeah.
Yes.
Working
if you've torn something, then obviously that's it. Again, we're talking about different kind of injuries, but if it's tweaked, if it just hurts a couple times when you move it or gets better as you do more reps, sometimes the more warm you are, the better it feels.
Yeah.
Slowing down the movements is super, super important. And if you can, that's a test you kind of have to do with yourself. If you tweaked something, you think you injured yourself, seeing if you can do the movement at a super lightweight PVC pipe even, and super slow and controlled. If that doesn't bother it, then we can work toward, that's something you can work on easily. Another
like how do I know if I tweaked something? It's usually on one side only.
Probably your dominant side.
Yeah. sometimes the dominant, sometimes the non-dominant. But if it's in the muscles, which is usually a tweak, it's one-sided, and then it can also be healed or is fixed.
Yeah. So
recovered from.
Again, a little bit of stretching and mobility. Usually, if it's muscular, stretching, mobilizing, doing that kind of thing on the hurt side is ideal. Slowing the movements down, going lighter weight, doing single-sided work is all stuff that we can do in a workout to avoid causing further irritation.
Yeah, and that's what the coaches are there for.
Exactly.
Yeah, to prevent to substitute the movement that is causing pain.
Yes.
Hurting. Cool. All right. That's how I get rid of the injury again. What about coming to CrossFit with an injury? Let's say a lower back injury. Yeah. Is that doable? Does that help? Does it make it worse? What's the deal?
It is doable, and it can help. It can also make it worse if you're not paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
But that's it's the same thing for going for a walk.
Yeah.
If you come in, injury, lower back injury, you tell your coaches, hey, I have this lower back thing, it's doing weird things, hurts when I deadlift, squat, whatever.
Yeah.
Again, we're not there to diagnose, we're not doctors. But we can modify everything that we do no matter what. And it's sort of like our pregnancy episode where you have to listen to your body.
Yeah.
And if you give us feedback, we can tell you oh, that hurts. Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
That feels good. That's what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
That's our job. And I can't stress this enough. We can modify everything.
Yeah.
Everything and anything. And we had somebody broke their foot this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Celebrating a PR, by the way.
Yeah.
This is great. She wasn't actually lifting or anything. She started dancing and tripped. Yes. So she came in. We had rowing. She got a boot on her, foot or whatever, so she can't put pressure on it, can't bend the ankle. She came in. We had rowing. there's a lot of ankle flexion
Yeah.
in the rower. So she brought a skateboard with her and
I
had
remember
one
that.
foot on the skateboard, the other was strapped in so her foot could roll on the skateboard while she was rowing, and it was the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's awesome.
She was not going to not get her workout in. So
Yep.
even stupid things, you would never think of this but we can do this. We can
Yep.
make it happen because the important thing is to stay moving.
Awesome. Cool. I think we did the 360, yeah? How do we prevent injuries? What happens if an injury occurs? And can I actually improve my injured body with doing CrossFit, with coming to the gym?
Yes, you can.
Yay! Awesome. If there's any questions that are still open, let us know for next episode.
Yeah, specifically with injuries, like
Yeah.
ask any coach, anybody. We want to know and we want to help with that. So hit us up.
Cool.
See you guys later.
Bye bye.